The Weekly starts now.
Hi, and welcome to The Weekly, your source for trends and innovations we're seeing in the residential construction market. So things are kind of getting back to normal. The Masters, it's back in April, where it should be. It's always been a great tournament to let you know spring and summer are here. And what a beautiful golf course. Today is tax day, except this year they moved it to May 15th. So Masters on time, tax day moved to May 15th. That's great developments for 2021. I'll take that every year. Our sponsor for today is Train Residential. And we've been talking about the healthy home and the obsession with it since COVID has kicked in. And Train takes a holistic approach with a product called Tranquility. And Tranquility creates that comfortable, energy-efficient environment that the consumers are looking for. Our homes have become our sanctuaries, and Train Residential can help you build that experience. So today's theme is education. We start with the Harvard Joint Center for Housing and Abby Will. They just finished a report on the remodeling market that examines the crazy DIY craze, our obsession with the exteriors of our home, and millennial home buyers and what that means to remodeling. Abby takes us through all of that and more.
Yeah, so certainly some of the trends that have shifted in the remodeling industry due to the pandemic, we think could be lasting, certainly in the shorter term. I think there's still a question about how long some of these changes might last. For example, the surge that we saw in DIY activity and smaller projects on the house, will that stay elevated, for another couple years permanently? Has that really reversed the long-term decline that we'd seen in DIY share of spending over the last couple decades? I think that's still yet to be seen, but there are other factors that the pandemic actually accelerated historical trends. For example, work on exterior of the home, replacement and exterior upgrades, as well as outside property improvements, kind of your fencing and decking and landscaping activities. Those types of activities had already been on the rise, a bigger part of the market even before the pandemic, and then the pandemic certainly accelerated those types of projects. So we think that the growth that we saw last year is likely to continue this year, and in fact, we projected a little bit stronger growth for 2021 than in 2020. And then, of course, there are longer-term trends that we think bode well for future growth in the industry that are unrelated to the pandemic. The aging of the housing stock and the continued aging of our population, as well as pretty big wave of millennial homeowners coming into those prime home buying ages. So lots of shorter term and longer term trends that we can point to that we think will help sustain growth in the industry, currently, this year, next year, and for many years.
The takeaway from that segment is that some things have changed forever and some things are going to revert back. The secret is knowing which ones are staying and which ones are changing. And Harvard does a really good job on identifying that. So let's talk about lumber. Lumber. Have we ever heard more about it? And we know the pricing is going through the roof. You can't control the pricing, but you can control how much lumber you put in your home or in your remodeling project. Scott Sadam outlines a lean strategy for lumber that will help you control cost that way.
There's some really definitive things that we can do to reduce our cost of lumber, engineered wood truss, whatever you're using, even though the price is high. So I kind of laid out a quick 10 slides on this, and it's going to become a column here shortly and probably a presentation with the typical 50 slides before too long. Okay, combating the high cost of lumber and a lean strategy. So what can we do? I'm going to throw this out here really quick. I've used this in some presentations before, but it comes back all the time. This idea, old French author who wrote once years ago, the voyage of discovery is not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes. So what we find is what we have to do is get all the constituents here, which we're going to talk about in just a second, to look at the same things they've always looked at for years and years, but put on new eyes and look at it in a different way for the opportunities we have there to get more efficient. And let me say right up front, we're never about dumbing down houses, make them hard to sell. And we're always going to meet code. And in maybe 5% of the cases, it's rare that it's more than that, you might want to beat the code. The classic example is a second floor master. You can build one of those and meet the code. And every time your customer walks across it, the floor bounces and they hate you. So there are cases where you want to make sure you beat the code enough to make sure to keep the customer happy.
So that lumber crisis, that's a real thing. And Scott has some great ideas on how you can control cost. And if he can solve that, he should be your best friend for a long time. So thanks for joining us today. If you've missed any of our segments, they're available on Horizon TV and on YouTube. Special thanks to our sponsor, Train Residential. They help you build that environment that consumers are craving right now. And that healthy home and indoor air quality and that sanctuary that everyone wants, Train Residential can help you build that exact experience. If there's anything you'd like to see, please email me. Here is my email address. Have a wonderful week. Stay safe. And we look forward to seeing you next Thursday. Thank you.